like me and my wife were with Singapore, there was no other option. We were moving, we were leaving Australia, right? Or you don't act on golden opportunities when they occur, you're going to lose. You're not going to be able to make it happen. They overthink it and they think it needs to be neatly planned and perfect. And what it really needs to be is creative imagination. You have it within you. Pour it out onto the page. There'll be things around your career, your entrepreneurship, your health, your relationships, your marriage. How would your marriage look like? How would your friends look like? What would travel would you be doing? Would you be moving countries and so on? So put everything that you've written down and brainstormed into themes. Today, I want to talk about Be the Lion and my 4Cs process for making it happen. When you've got a big challenge and you want to overcome it, it can be quite confronting, but you just can't give it up. You've got to keep going. And so I came up with the 4Cs for overcoming big challenges and making it happen that I write about in Be the Lion due to some of the big challenges I've been overcoming. But really, it was around when we decided as a family to move to Singapore. And a lot of that decision came down to us really buying into that decision. We just got off a plane. We'd just come back from a wedding in France and we were living in Australia at the time. And we got off that plane and we both said to each other, me and my wife, I'm done. I'm done. I don't need to be here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. And we started ideating on where we could be. Where would we want to be in the world that could position us for a new family, where we could be closer to home, and it could see all of our dreams come true. And we started thinking through the options, and Singapore quickly became the favorite. The trouble was, it wasn't like I had a book of contacts in Singapore. It wasn't like I knew the market. It wasn't like I could just call someone up and say, hey, how does this work? We had to figure it out stage by stage, and we had to make it happen. And so we went through this really conflicting time of about 9 months where we were putting together this dream and building it as we go. We almost jumped off the cliff mentally, and then we were putting the plane together as we were going through the air. So it was crazy. And at the same time, when you know what you want, it drives you. It makes it happen, because when you know what you want and you will not give up, there was no other option, right? We were done with Australia. We wanted to move. Then it becomes a question of, right, how can I make it happen? And you search through and you're willing to do what you believe is impossible to make it happen. And so there's a whole story in the book about this, but essentially we ended up doing things and thinking in different ways and also behaving in different ways in order to get what we want and see it come through to fruition. My 4Cs model comes through a lot of the other parts of my life and what I've been through, and also some of the struggles, some of the ups. How do you deal with success? Like all of these different parts. So it's not just focused on this one move to Singapore, but that was transformational. And it obviously has set us up in a new kind of way. So the 4Cs model that I outline in my book, Be the Lion, starts with creation. That's the first C. And that really is action taking. And that's what I want to talk about today, is action taking. So when you'll be able to go out there and you'll be able to create, you're in action mode. You're the lion hunting down your goals. You're doing things every day that take you closer to the needle. So let's start off. I start the book on creation in the introduction with a quote from Ryan Serhant. So Ryan Serhant is the star of $1 Million Listing, and he's also got a brokerage called Serhant. And his quote is, expansion always, in all ways. I love it. Expansion always, in all ways. If you've got that kind of mentality and you're thinking about expanding always, you're saying yes to opportunity always. You could always say no later, but if you have that mentality to say yes to an opportunity on everything, you're expanding in all ways, in all areas of your life, in your health, your wealth, your spirituality, your friendships, your relationships, your partner, all of these different ways. I love it. So that's what I wanted to start with. But I call out in the book that action taking for action's sake is not necessarily a good thing. It's the ability to strategically apply consistent action in focused areas of your life, directing towards a goal. That's the key differentiator. So knowing what you want and then being able to take action that will get you towards your goal is very important. Not just action for action's sake, not just being busy for being busy's sake. And this is something people struggle with. right? Because they've got what they want in front of them. And then they start doing a bunch of stuff, a ton of activity. And it creates a bit of momentum. It creates a bit of an increase in productivity, but it doesn't actually, over time, get them consistently focused on getting closer to the goal. And that's when they come unstuck, right? Because if you just bowl into something and you're taking as much action as you physically can, but it's not moving the needle, or it's moving the needle a little bit, but not really getting there, and you feel it inside, you become disheartened and you stop and you feel like your goal isn't going to happen. And then you quit. So it doesn't happen. And the reason is, and what you've got to be careful for, is not just taking action for action's sake. You've got to have it as strategically directed towards the goal. It's prioritizing the things that are going to move the needle. And the reason is, and how you do it, is you bring the future of what you want to you. So you need to behave and act and think as the future has already happened, as the goal has happened. You have to think from the goal, not from your current position. You have to innovate on what you could do, not be locked into a fixed mindset of the things and the options that you think you have. And this is where creativity in action becomes really important. The creation piece of what I'm talking about in the first C of the 4Cs framework. So you've got to be creative. You've got to be thinking from the goal and bring the future of what you want towards you, to you in the current, not from your current state. Because a lot of the times when we really want something, we're actually just charging at it like a bull, but we're not thinking through, does that actually get me my result? Does it move the needle? Or is it just me making me feel better in the moment, in the short term, because I'm doing something? I'm doing something. You're doing a lot of something, but maybe it's in the wrong direction. Really key. What we want to be doing is creating, putting ourselves into the unknown, putting ourselves and thinking from the goal. What would it be like if I'd already achieved my goal, and how would I think about things? Say if you want to be a millionaire, you can't approach it from the position of, I earn $100,000 and these are what I would do. This is my behaviors I would take. You've got to approach it from, I'm a millionaire, and these are the actions and the behaviors and the habits and the lifestyles and the attitudes that I exhibit as a millionaire. They're very different lifestyles. They're very different thinking modes, because what you would think like and who you'd be associated with and the options that would come to you naturally are two different places. And you need to do that with your goal. So that's the first thing. And I call out that this section on action should be read and reread whenever you face a struggle or you have a tough time deciding on which direction to go and what you should prioritize next in order to achieve your maximum potential. I say it doesn't matter if you're Warren Buffett or Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk. Even the most highly motivated struggle with this stuff at times. And it's true, they do, because they're all reaching new levels of success. They're all going into new levels of the unknown. And that's what it takes. That's what we talk about. And that's why it's so uncomfortable, because it's requiring us to put ourselves into a place that we haven't been before and think about things in new ways and then take action on them. Action being the critical step. We then go into chapter 2, which is talking about getting mentally prepared. And I started with this piece because it really comes down to your beliefs. Nothing is impossible. This is when we get into the idea of time to take action to the next level, get into action mode. When people don't fully 100% believe that something is achievable, they're not committed to making it a success. In the same way as someone who believes it's completely possible, or you believe in it completely. When you're fully 100% in, like me and my wife were with Singapore, there was no other option. We were moving, we were leaving Australia, right? That was happening. We did everything. We went all the way through to putting our house, handing our notice in on our apartment. We rented an apartment. No, we're not going to be here. We're not going to renew the tenancy. We hadn't got anywhere to go into Singapore. We were taking the actions anyway. We were doing the things. We booked the flights. We set a date and booked the flights. We are out of here. We were 100% in. And so we took action differently from someone that was only partially in, someone that was like, I'll do this when the route becomes possible. No, we took action and then created the possible. And so that's why you need to be mentally prepared for action. And you need to see things and fully ask that question to yourself. Are you in? Do you believe that this is possible? Do you believe in it completely? Are you 100% in? And so Napoleon Hill, I love Napoleon Hill. I love Think and Grow Rich. It was one of the first books I read when I was becoming Be the Lion, essentially, when I was writing Be the Lion, when I was thinking about this transformation that I wanted to go on. So from age 27 to around 32, I did a lot of reading every weekend, every day, books. There was courses I went on. I really got close to people that I saw as mentors and saw as inspirational. But I discovered this new world through Think and Grow Rich. And it was one of the first books that I read that did that. And it opened my mind to this new way of thinking that I'm describing. And so the optimist mindset is for when you work with a definite objective. In other words, when you work with a definite chief aim, when you know exactly what it is you want to achieve, your mind can produce unlimited force and energy, which will propel you in the direction more rapidly than you could possibly imagine. And that comes from The Law of Success, which is by Napoleon Hill. And that was the book that Andrew Carnegie actually commissioned him to write, not Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich was the product of the thinking that he did, going through the process and interviewing all the most successful 500 top business moguls in the US at the time. The Law of Success was a volume of books that he wrote, commissioned by Andrew Carnegie, about how you actually get success and what are the laws of success. So I love that quote, because your mind is the most powerful tool, and therefore you must pay close attention to your thoughts. If you're telling yourself it can't or it won't happen, or you don't act on golden opportunities when they occur, you're going to lose. You're not going to be able to make it happen. And so this is what action is all about. It's having our mind focused right and understanding and getting into the reality. Are we 100% in? Have we got a definite chief aim? Do we know what we want? And do we believe it is possible? For those of you who follow me, you'll know my motto is believe it is possible. And that comes from many, many times in my life when I've had to believe it is possible, and I've believed it is possible 100%. And then it has created the fact. And I've gone out there and made it happen in situations where usually it's been situations where a government body or a policy or an organization or a person is telling you no. They're telling you that it's just not how we do things. It's not possible. We haven't got all the paperwork. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. How can we do this? And believe it is possible can help you overcome that. But also, once you do it once in a big, big way, once it's something that you know you want and you manage to get through the gauntlet, you know that it's possible, and then you apply it to many other areas of your life. Henry Ford says this: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And he had this mentality when it came to the V8 engine, when he wanted that made in a block of iron, and all of the inventors, all the people, all the best minds in the world that were on his team were telling him, no, you can't have this. It's not possible. We can't make it happen. We can't do what you're asking us to. And he made them sit for, I think it was like 2 years with that one problem. Like, okay, fine. You're going to fix this. This is possible. You're going to do it and figure out a way. And this is now your job until it's done. And he just kept coming back, and they kept coming back and saying, no, it's not possible. Look, Henry, you're out of your mind. Just let us do something else. Like, we've got good cars. Let's go. He was like, no, we've got to stick at this problem long enough to see it through. I think one of the most powerful parts of this section is around you managing you, right? It's all very well and good believing something is possible and being 100% in to what you want and knowing what you want and then going after it and taking action, making yourself uncomfortable, pushing into those areas of growth. But what about the days where you wake up and you're just feeling totally uninspired? How do you do that? Because you don't have time to walk around like a sad sack. You don't have time to placate these emotions. You've got a burning desire. You've got a chief aim in your life, and you're ready to go after it with everything you've got. The thing is you need discipline, and that takes work. The first thing I do whenever I feel or felt in this situation, down, low energy, was I'd put my headphones in and I'd listen to inspirational words from motivational speakers. I'd get myself in the right state, as if these people and these mentors were talking to me directly, as if we'd walked out of the building and they were next to me. How would you feel if that business mogul, if that inspirational leader, if that person was next to you, having breakfast with you or going alongside with you on your jog? And what that does is it allows you to stay humble. It allows you to reframe your point of reference to the world, and it allows you to realize, look, things aren't that bad. You haven't got it that bad. And there's a lot of opportunity here. until you recreate that optimist's mindset. And that's what you need to do. You need to actually go around and do that. So you create the environment. The second step that I talk about is, and I do this a lot in sales, in business development, if there's someone I don't want to meet or I'm not looking forward to, but I know it would enhance my business, I smile my ass off. So I put myself physically in the state by smiling, and that gets my head in the right state, because really I want to be focused on gratitude all the way through my day. Gratitude is commonly talked as one of the most powerful tools that we can reconnect with the universe and other people and ourselves. So we can get that connection back. When we're thinking from a point of gratitude, we're actually thinking from a place of connection. Gratitude is the spirit of abundance. It's the frequency of abundance. And you want more abundance in your life because you're trying to open doors and create doors that didn't even exist yet. And so gratitude can help you do that. So when you're smiling, you start to feel better physiologically. And when you're doing it, you're putting yourself into the unknown and into that uncomfortable state, because trust me, when you're smiling and you don't feel it inside, you do feel like a bit of a madman. But it's worth it, because after 5 minutes, you've started to move into that zone. And then when you focus on gratitude, and that can be anything from I got to wake up today to I get to have these problems. I choose to have these problems. I'm an ambitious person. Isn't that great? I'm an ambitious person, and I am going after these problems, and I'm going to be the one in my family to solve them. And I'm going to go after them like nothing else. And so then you start thinking about gratitude, and you're like, what else can I be grateful for? Well, I've got my health. Wow. If you think about it, we already have millions of dollars worth of abundance within us, because you wouldn't chop off your arm if someone gave you $10 million. You just wouldn't do it. And so therefore your arm is worth more than $10 million to you. Same for your eyes. You wouldn't pluck up your eyeball for $10 million. You're not going to do it. You're an infinite source of value already. And you have an opportunity that's infinitely more exciting and valuable and abundant right there, just being alive and having your health, just having the body and the experience and being alive right now in this moment, with all the technological advances that we have, with all the health, with all the nutrition, with all the stuff that we've got going on in the world that's amazing. You have such a phenomenal opportunity, yet you're feeling down and you're going to give into your emotions and let you take you off track. And that's what you've got to not let happen. You can't let your emotions of how you feel for 5 minutes or when you wake up take you off track. You have to have a disciplined mindset. You have to become your own rock and put the building blocks back together, build yourself back up and know what to do at that exact moment, so that you can nip it in the bud and you can go out and take action courageously. You can be the lion. And so that's all about raising your energy. And that means that you're raising the bar, because energy is contagious. Some people can walk into a room and their presence changes the very energy in the room, right? And that's obvious how that can advantageously play out in your life. It can make you want to up your game. You can become more focused. You can become more aspirational. You can see situations through a different light, because often the challenge is the opportunity. Often the challenge has that seed of goodness, as Napoleon Hill talks about. Every adversity has a seed of opportunity within it. It has that. And it just is how you perceive that challenge that can make all the difference. I remember one time our apartment got sold from under us. It got sold. And then what happened was we had this amazing experience where we ended up moving to a bigger place in a better part of town with twice as much space and not nearly as much cost, like a little bit less. So it was just amazing, because we got something completely different than what we expected. When you look at it and you're like, oh, I've got to move out of this condo. I've got to do all the move. I've got to pay the movers. This sucks. I don't want to be doing it. It's really expensive in the market right now. And then it all works out in your favor. But you can't see that because A, you're not in the future, and B, you're blinded by all these negative thoughts that have appeared in your head. Yet they're not true. So don't buy into them. Do not buy into the negative thoughts in your head that come up when the challenge comes up, because the positive is there. The opportunity is there. And it's for you to move on and take action on it like a lion who is courageous, who knows and expects the negative thoughts to come and is able to discipline their mind to stop them, to quiet them out, to dampen them down. So what's your excuse? this is an emotional piece, right? So what's your excuse comes back to, what is the excuse you're telling yourself for the reason as to why you're not doing what you know you need to do? Is it that you don't know how to do it? Is that your excuse? Are you saying, I'm late, I'm sorry, I'm always late, like I don't have time, I'm always busy? Are you focused on the wrong activities, and then you're using that excuse to stop you doing the thing that you know is going to move the needle? Really important. I mean, when you say these things out loud, they become your identity. So you've got to focus on your language. So don't keep repeating things that are keeping you stuck. Don't be the person that's, oh, I'm always late, or I'm always busy, or I'm always tired. If you repeat this to yourself, that's the story you're telling yourself, and therefore it becomes part of your identity. And therefore you keep repeating it, and you make it easier for yourself because you're giving yourself a get out. You're like, oh, I'm always tired, I can't get up early and go to the gym, I'm not that kind of person. Cool. Well, that's an excuse, and it's holding you back. And remember that, like, this is blocking you from achieving what you want. So this is a really big deal. So as I've discussed, knowing what you want is very important, because it helps you figure it out. But just because I say it on here doesn't mean that everyone will know what they want instantly. It doesn't mean that people will come to the problem. What if you're struggling to find your purpose or your next move? When you do not have a big vision, it's a problem. It's a pain in the ass, because a big vision, a big purpose in your life is a huge motivational force. It allows you to channel your energy. If you don't have that, you can get distracted, you can be lazy, you can do all these things that are taking you off, not fulfilling your purpose because you don't have them. And so you want to be channeling your energy into the right places. And I call this how to find your life of meaning. So I want you to get a vision in your head. And the best way is to break this down and get a vision in your head of where you want to be at a certain age. For me, it was the age of 37. At this point in my life, I wanted to be financially independent, running my own business, and helping in a major way to change people's lives. Okay. The way to do it is to go through these questions. If you have got a vision in your head, what would it be like at that point in future? What springs off the mind right off the bat? What comes to mind? What would you be doing if money was no object? That's a good way to kind of ideate and remove one of the biggest blockers, which is sometimes money. Oh, I don't have enough money to do that. Let your mind go free when you're doing this. Think about what you really enjoy doing. What would you be doing if money was no object? What experiences would you be having? Where would you be having them? Who would you be with? What if someone gave you $1 million today? How would you spend it if you had to get rid of all of that $1 million in 24 hours? What would you do? And these show you what you would lean into, what you would gravitate towards, what you should be doing. And these trigger explosive thoughts of excitement, fulfillment, meaning. This is what we often quieten down by the rules that we've placed on our life and our current situation. This is that's not possible because I don't have $1 million right now, or money is an issue. And so we keep our ideas locked up in these boxes inside and we don't explore them. And I'm telling you to get in there and ideate, write down 20 ideas, brainstorm every day what you would do if money was no object, what you would do if you could do anything in the world. And when you do that, you pour in your creation, your creativity, your action, thinking muscle, so that you can do more of it and you take steps towards it. You can take action on it, but the first step is to explore that and to put your energy into unpacking it and imagination and creativity around that. The second is to set the time frame, because we do need something to aim towards. Our minds need that time frame to have a date in our mind when we will get there. And so we have that, and then keep brainstorming through what you would do. Just write them. If there's a list of things, it doesn't have to be random stuff. You can just write them down. Like, write them down. Don't hold back. Even if you think it sounds silly, write it down and make sure it's specific. What would you be doing? What would your life look like if it didn't look like what it looks like right now? Then group them together, because you might see themes, right? There'll be things around your career, your entrepreneurship, your health, your relationships, your marriage. How would your marriage look like? How would your friends look like? What travel would you be doing? Would you be moving countries and so on? So put everything that you've written down and brainstormed into themes under those headings, like finances, wealth, jobs, careers, charity work, philanthropy, your investments, what excites you, and put that in there. And then finally, you've got to complete the jigsaw. And so this is where you start with the goal in mind and you work backwards. So what would happen next? Okay, well, you start putting these themes and these pieces in order. So for me, at age 32, it was finish the book, right? Finish the book I was writing, design an online course. Then I would need to do speaking, events, and coaching. One, to promote the book, but two, to expand my work with people and expand my reach. And then finally, it was research and donate to a specific charity, so that then I have that purpose feeding back, and it's feeding more people, and what good I'm putting out into the world is actually helping other people change their own lives. And then finally, this last step of the piece was invest all of the residual income into wealth creating sources. So invest income in property. So I build financial independence by becoming and investing into property. So I outline this in way more detail in the book, but this is the process for creating your big vision and getting some clarity and working backwards from the goal of the steps you will need to take to be able to achieve your goal. And then you can get started with action on the first thing. So you're not crowded by the vision, because sometimes it can be so overwhelming. The things you want can feel so far off that you're like, well, I'm not even going to start because this is insane. Like, how can I go to having a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, living and working from wherever I want in the world, being married, having an amazing man or woman in my life, and 5 kids and a dog and holidays in the Caribbean, and it can feel overwhelming. And that's because we're not breaking it down into smaller chunks. Have the vision, let it fuel your action for the first step. And what's the first step you need to do? And when you know that, you can take action with the energy and the fuel and the abundance of your goal having been already done on that first step. I get so passionate about this. That's why I'm losing my voice. This is so exciting to me, because so many people struggle to find their purpose because they overthink it. They overthink it and they think it needs to be neatly planned and perfect. And what it really needs to be is creative imagination. You have it within you. Pour it out onto the page. Let your mind run free, and then reorder the items in the right order. So like stepping stones, like building blocks to create your big vision. And that's when it all comes together. And you just keep doing this exercise. If it's struggling, it doesn't mean that every time you sit down or when you sit down, if it doesn't happen for you, don't freak out. Don't worry. You just need to be in the right state, the right relaxed state, the enjoyable state, the excited state, the abundant state. And the ideas will come. They are in there. You just need to do that. So you're looking for clues. You know, you find what is good in your life, and you find over the next few days, just pay attention to what's attracting to you. What do you like? Do you like going to good restaurants? What is it about good restaurants specifically that you like? Do you like fashion? Is it the touch of the clothes? Is it the look and the colors of the clothes? Is it the style? What is feeding your desire? There's clues. You've just got to pay attention. And up till now, if you haven't found your purpose or your big mission, you've been tuning them out. So we've got to tune our minds back in. We've got to attune to the situation. For me, every time I walk into a luxury hotel, I felt deep down a sense of calm. That's what it was. Like, I really see a luxury hotel, and I wanted that lifestyle of being able to be the person that if I could stay in a luxury hotel, what would that person be doing? You know, that's the lifestyle. If I was someone that could afford to stay in a luxury hotel, what might else I be doing and working on? And who would I have to become to be that? That's the kind of process I went through. So I realized when I was in luxury hotels, it gave me that sense of mental relaxation, and that everything was fine financially, and I could let my guard down and I could relax. So therefore, I had to listen to myself. And I spent a hell of a lot of time in luxury hotels while I was writing this book, while I was doing the work from 32 up to 32, 27 to 32, or I was putting myself in the environment that I wanted to be in the future. And then, as you know, I've got that environment. It's crazy, right? But for 5 years, I couldn't afford that environment. I could only afford to kind of go there and hang out there, and then every once in a while stay there. But it felt expensive. Now it's normal. It's what we do. But it started way back then. And by putting myself in the environment, it allowed me to do work as if I was already in that environment and could afford those things, and therefore become that person. So I started to think like the person that I wanted to become. Then create a mood board. So you have to create a mood board of all the things, because you want to see it every day. You want to see this. You want to be around it, want to be around your goals, your dreams. Put it all on a mood board and make sure that it's strategic in your home so that every time you can you can connect with your big picture vision. Because the more intensely you see it, you're multiplying that every time in a day. And we think in pictures. We, as humans, we think in visual. We're visual. We think in pictures. So having a mood board is very good for that, because it stimulates and repeats to you your big vision, your big mission every day, 15 times a day as you see it as you're in the bathroom. Maybe you've got a problem because you're going to the bathroom 15 times a day, but hey, don't worry about that. Look at your mood board, and that repetition of that image brings it closer to you, because it starts to feel more comfortable, more achievable. And what does it do? It helps you get ideas on how to achieve it. Don't worry about currently how you will achieve it. The ideas will come when you spend some time feeling the energy of that goal already achieved. So that's what mood boards do, and that's why they're very important, to position strategically in your house. Then you have to realize that, you know, who you hang out with will really have a big influence on who you become, because this is your one life. So if you're in a dead-end job, or you have a group of friends that are dragging you down, you have to have people around you that are going to nurture those inspirations. So if there are people in your life, when you have this big goal, dream, and vision, your purpose, and you find it and you nail it, and you're like, yeah, this is what I want, and they're like, yeah, that's never going to happen, that's an issue. You've got to minimize your interaction time with those people, because they're taking you off course. They have an influence on you. And so you have to do that environmentally. If you're in a dead-end job, or you're around people that aren't supporting your bigger goals, dream, and vision, that don't encourage you to be the best version of yourself, or it's just not a good environment for you, get out of it, because this is a plan for your life. And if you're not addressing the things that are in your life currently that are stopping you from getting it and making changes and thinking like the person you want to become, would that person that has that life be in this job, in this environment, with these things, and damaging your behaviors and your influence and your what's possible? No, they wouldn't. They would go out there and they get a new job or new friends or a new environment, and they put themselves in a position to win. They think from the goal already done. So definitely do that. And it's what I did. I realized the person I wanted to become. And when I was reading and I was really wanting to get in shape and I had a workout plan, I looked at who I wanted to be, and then I brought it to me. So I craved more mentorship, more leadership, more people in my life that I could admire and I see were doing things that I wanted to already achieve. And so I became deeply committed to learning and educating myself on the subject of personal development and growth. Deeply committed. I mean, for years, every day, that was a book in my hand. Every weekend, studying. No one was telling me to do this. You just go for it. Waking up at 5 a.m. and writing for at least an hour each day, and then go to work. And then I listened to many podcasts on the way to work, all before sunrise. So I was feeding my mind, being around the people that I wanted to be, being around Napoleon Hill, being around people that was inspirational to me, and was thinking, so I could attune my thinking, and then attacking the day, all before sunrise. And it's a shift to a completely new you. You start setting your alarm clock half an hour earlier. You commit to get out of bed, no matter what. You commit to trying new ways of living. You commit to not settling. So you're raising your standard for what you believe you should be doing. And you commit to giving yourself the opportunity to thrive. So for the plan to work, you must live life as the person you want to become. And it starts today. This is my calling card to you for today. It starts today for you to get into it right now. This is it. And we'll pick this up in a future episode, but I want to leave this here for today, because I want to say you have an amazing opportunity right now to achieve more without the stress and the overwhelm. I'd say if you haven't grabbed a copy of Be the Lion, it's probably a good idea to do so. I go into way more detail than I'm talking about right now. But you have an amazing opportunity in front of you right now to grab life by the horns and to charge into it in the right way, to make your dreams, your vision, and your purpose come true, and to find that life of meaning. And I'm here, and I'm supporting you, and I champion you, and I well done to you for going and making it happen, and for trying, for trying to get it right, for trying to know what's good enough, for trying to raise your standard, for putting things in place. They're actually going to get you there, and not just saying, oh, we'll wing it, not just say we'll do a bunch of activity and we'll see if anything sticks. This is about following. And I've done the work. I've done and been around the people, and I've made it happen. And therefore, I wrote this book to allow others to follow a template. Because I'm like, how did I do this? How did this happen? And then I put it into a book because I saw that people were still struggling with this. I struggled with this. Therefore, I was like, maybe this can help other people. So hopefully it helps you. Hopefully this is the turbocharge and the wake-up call that you needed. And I'm here for you. So we'll catch up on the next episode around continuing in action, in creation mode, the first C of the 4 C's framework. And I'll catch you next time.